Our first video will start with getting into SolidWorks and setting up our work area. So more than likely, the first time you launch SolidWorks, you'll see the accept agreement, and then it will allow you to go into the software. And at some point, if the system diagnosis is on, it's going to say, check your system. If we're in the classroom computers, these are going to reset and come up just about every time. On your personal computer, you'll be able to go into, so find it here, find the SolidWorks resource monitor and dismiss graphics notifications and dismiss subscription notifications. And then the resource pops up, and no, I don't really want to do that. So again, right clicking and just making sure that those are unchecked. All right, so that's going to put us into SolidWorks, and let's see, my recents did not come up, so let's go to the home. All right, so you're more than likely you're going to see this as the start screen, which is kind of handy. There are some useful items with the recent. I'll introduce a few of the hotkeys if you like keyboard shortcuts. But for the most part, I'm going to try to stay with the basic commands and work through the process and add a little bit as we go. So you can turn this off, and I'd say leave it on for now. So I am in the SolidWorks Maker version, which for people going into the 3D printing or for hobbyists, this is a really good version. Same as the education version, but the education version will load into Maker, but the Maker won't load into education or into professional. So once you've gotten this far with your setup, we're ready to nope, that one still didn't come up. So let's go back into that real quick. Let's see, because I'm in the Maker, I am logged in. There is another place that shows up with the login on some of them up here. You do not need to log in, except for the Maker, which is connecting to the server each time it launches, and this being the local a local install has to connect every 30 days. If you're doing the browser or the online version, then it connects every time and it's actually running out in the cloud. So just be aware of the different versions. An education or commercial version, you won't have to do any kind of login or sign in for the software. All right, so any software that I go into, one of the first things that I'm interested in is the options, or it may be called preferences or settings, but in SolidWorks the options are here, and we'll go through all of these eventually. There is a hotkey that turns off the confirmation corner, but when we're in a sketch, we'll see a checkbox up here, and that is really handy. And if it goes away, we're going to come back into the options and enable the confirmation corner. Let's see, we're not anything yet. Colors, I would recommend that you don't go too crazy changing colors, at least initially. Let's see, if there are issues with the display, I know one of these is performance related. So if there is ghost images or sometimes weird things are happening, then you can turn on enhanced graphics or turn it off, and that sometimes corrects. Depending on your software and the graphics card that you're working with, you may be able to do software OpenGL, but once that's turned on, it pretty much stays on. So use that kind of as a last resort. Jumping down to file locations, we'll do a little bit with the templates that I've already set these up a little bit. Under the feature manager, I will show you the ones that I like to have on. And mainly I like to show the solid bodies because if we accidentally create a multi-body part, a part that contains two solid bodies that are not connected, not merged, then we want that to kind of be apparent and show up, not just something that pops up. So don't really do the equations are handy. A lot of times the history and the design binder. So the design binder is set to automatic. If you use it, it comes up. History, I don't work with sensors or sometimes loaded. Those I hide unless I'm actually using those and needing those. So the surface or the solid bodies, the annotations, of course, our default planes and origin. Those are going to be the critical items. Under the view, if you are used to the AutoCAD or Autodesk scroll wheel direction, then reversing the mouse wheel zoom direction will be of benefit to you. I usually turn off the auto recover. There may be times where if we're doing something really complicated, that'll be handy to turn on, but for the most part, the systems have stabilized enough to where I'm not experiencing a lot of crashes, or if I do, it's because I did something on the cam side or one of the other add-in sides. So nothing really on touch, and we'll just go ahead and accept that. So those system options should be modal. I should see those next time. It's when we go into a part, and let's see, I need to find the standard templates, and actually, there it is. Since I've already created a few, we will create a part inch and a part metric. The part module, the assembly module, and the drawing module. These are the three that you should see and on the default. If you are in Novus mode, then you will see part assembly and drawing, but those go to the default locations. If you've created something or created multiple templates, separate drawing template, something you'd want to use or be able to pick between inch and metric, being in that advanced is going to be preferable. So I'm going to open up a part, and this pretty much mimics the direction we're going to take. We're going to create parts, we're going to put them in an assembly, see how they work together, and then create drawings, working documents for those items. All right, so this becomes our work area. Getting this set up the way that we want it. A quick overview, the command manager across the top. If this is flying out, okay, so mine doesn't move. So that means that I have gone into like a gray area over here, and we're going to customize. And one of the things you can do is lock the command manager and the toolbars. If your icon size is really big, really small, then you can make adjustments. I prefer the tooltips without images. I think by default the images are on, but if it gets annoying, we'll be able to come back and turn the tooltips. Context and showing menu. While we're here, the list of the shortcut bars, we can go in and customize, and we'll do that eventually. All of the commands available to add and remove. All of the menus, I recommend you do not mess with the pull down menus, because somewhere you'll be able to find most everything in here. And if you do like to use the hotkeys, then you can copy this list and paste it into an Excel file, and then sort on the shortcuts column, and it will give you a list of all of the shortcuts. You can custom, but again, don't go making too many changes so that it stays similar to what I'm doing on my screen. The gestures are a hold down the right button and move, and the donut will pop up. This is not something that I've adopted. I will show you how to do it if you're familiar. I believe it's with the Dovey project products. It will let you um, access commands through those circular rings. All right, so I've got some extra stuff up here. The life cycle and collaboration I'm not going to use. The add-ins, if I go to add-ins, I'm probably going to go back to my options, do the pull down and select add-ins, and then everything we have available is through there. So my cam and the other items will access through um, that command. All right, so I want to turn some tabs off. Please do not turn off all of the tabs. It is still kind of annoying to turn them back on. I do like direct editing. I do like evaluate. We'll go ahead and open up some screen space by right clicking again. There is a lot of right clicking going on, so I try to say I'm right clicking, but left is your select, right is your context menus. You're getting into things without having to go search for and tunnel down through the pull downs, but of course all of those commands are still available in the pull downs. All right, so what else do we need to do here? So now that we're in a document and we look at the options, I want to go, we still have all the system options. When no document is open, we'll have the system options. But then once we've opened up a part, we're able to set the standard. A long time ago, I accepted the ISO, not thinking anything about it. I decided I liked some of the features of ISO, and I do largely generate my drawings in ISO. Main differences are that my vertical dimensions are vertical instead of in ANSI they stay horizontal, even though the extension lines are vertical. So with ISO, the vertical dimensions align with the extension lines. The other thing you'll notice is that when they do the thread form, when we get into threads and there's a thing called cosmetic threads, they will look slightly different between ISO and ANSI standard. But other than that, take your pick. I don't really have a preference except in what I do. So the detailing, I typically turn off the shaded cosmetic threads. It is a it is a resource against your video card. Grids and snaps, if you like the display of the grid, I don't use the grid. I just am too used to kind of that free form. And probably the most important one here is that we want to do units in millimeters and or inches for our part inch, and then millimeters. I'm not sure why that is at none. Must have changed something there previously, but 2 decimal places in millimeters metric and 3 decimal places for inches. So we'll talk more about units, but typically, depending on your industry, you're going to pick the units that are most appropriate. So to be more concise as a machinist, we talk in thousandths of an inch, tenths of a thousandth of an inch. So a tenth of a thousandth would be out 4 decimal places. And if we get out to 40 millionths, 6 decimal places, we are in microns. So um, you know, unless you're drawing something really big, you probably don't need the feet and inches and some of the other stuff. And unless you're drawing something really small, you don't need angstroms. So it always has been a quirk of mine that we can draw in angstroms at the subatomic level, but they won't give me like light years or parsecs, so I can design a universe. All right, so silly little things that come up. All right, so we're in inch, pounds, and seconds. We've set our units. I don't think there's anything else in there really we need to do right now. And we'll go ahead and finish this up by creating our first template. Now, when we look at our going into the CSWA example practice problems. Those are going to be looks like largely metric. So, well, there's a couple inch. So we're going to use both of those. So on the display, we have the heads-up display. I've added a few things over here for the shaded with edges. We'll go through that later, but if my screen doesn't look exactly like yours, um, we're going to get there eventually. So one of the things we want in our template, that when every time we load, I don't want the instant 3D on. If that's grayed, then it turns it on, and we'll show you what that does when we have some solid geometry. Going into the sketch, I don't want instant 2D, and I don't want it to open up a sketch every time that I click on a face or a plane or anything. So instant 2D doesn't really help. Another thing that I like to see are the origins. So be careful with our view eyeball types. Hide all types turns everything off if you are hovering over the main body of that tool. You want to make sure that you're on the arrow. And then here I would like to see the origin. So blue origin is one of the first visual clues that we're going to use, where this is our reference. We're not in a sketch. If I look down here, there's nothing really going on. When this goes red and I'm looking at normal to a sketch plane, then I know that I am in a sketch. The other thing would be, as we come around the screen, the task pane, File Explorer, View Palette, appearances. I've already set my my scene, but let's go to basic scenes. And that's a little compressed, so let's see if I can find the double arrow. Maybe not. Okay, there we go, up top. And if you decide that you want one of these other items, you can click on it, or you can set it as the default. So I think, if I remember correctly, they do one of the soft spotlights or soft tint, something like that, will be your background. I changed that over to plain white, and that is set at my default scene. I can check that if I'm not sure the latest install, so I will have to verify, but if we're applying a scene, I can verify that plain white is my default by looking there. And if I want to change to some other favorite for whatever reason, I can pick one of the other items. All right, across the bottom, I have filters. And to turn the filters on and off, we're going to do an F5 or F5 is the toggle. And then to activate, if one or more is selected in a combination, F6 will turn those on and off. So I'm going to turn that off, so it'll probably look more like your screen. And across the status bar, we'll have different information that we can glance down and get feedback of what's going on in our sketch. And then the feature tree. This is a history-based system, so a sketch becomes the parent of the feature, and then subsequent features and subsequent geometry becomes child features. There is arrows. So dynamic reference, when they first came out with the dynamic reference, I wasn't real fond of them. Now I use them all the time. So it's just the natural progression of improvements and things that are added to the system. If you don't like them, you can turn them off. If they're not there and you want them on, right click on the very top and you'll have those two icons. Going across the tabs here, we have a property manager. Solidworks will switch in and out of the property manager for you. The configuration manager we'll deal with later, but display states, configurations control physical properties across maybe multiple, configurations. Instead of creating 10 separate parts, I can create one part with 10 configurations and control the physical properties out of the configuration. And the display states will control the visual properties, colors, textures, those types of things. With the DIM expert, manager, we're able to put in place dimensions outside of the sketch directly on the model, and then the other side of the appearances. And then if I'm loading up one of the CAM programs, SolidWorks CAM, SolidCam, HSM, those will appear here along with another tab denoting those. All right, so let's finish up by creating our template. And I'm going to make this one a maker template. So I'm going to put a save as. So here's one of the differences that you're going to see in the maker version is that as a save to 3D experience or save to this PC. So the 3D experience tab will come to, but that is over here. That's the cloud if we want to use this in more than one place. I have not tried to set file locations or do any of those types of things. I would think it would be more functional for projects and parts. We're looking for a part template, and then that is going to default. I've already set this as my default templates, and so this one's going to be, I'm just going to put it in part and inch, and we'll try to make these enough different from what I've already created. Again, you won't necessarily have these, but I wanted to note, so if I open this up in, or try to open this template up in a education or commercial version, it's going to tell me that it can't open. So I don't want to mix those. I do want to keep them separate. All right, so let's verify that worked. And let's see if I get that PRT-DOT. So we want to make sure to close this, because at this point, anything we put in the template and save to the template becomes part of the template. So there is, oh, I put it in the wrong place after all. So well, I'll have to correct that. All right, so the impart inch, we can go into the options, find my document properties, go back to the units, and I'm going to switch to millimeters, grams, and seconds. That can become 2 decimal places. That can become inches and 3 decimal places, because there are times where I want to turn on dual dimensions and see both units displayed at the same time. All right, so we're going to do a file save to this PC. And again, if you're working in the regular education or commercial version, you're not going to have that saved to 3D experience. So I was looking for part template and impart, but this one I'm going to change to MM. All right, so different Windows ways of overwriting, naming, all of that fun stuff. All right, so let's take a look at the 3D experience. This is the first semester that I've really had had access or had enough people that were interested in the maker version, and I know a few people got it over the summer. So files on the PC, and then the file explorer for the local. So there's some different tools that you may or may not see on your version. So let's go ahead and wrap up this video. A lot of information to digest. We're going to review this. I can't get away from anything without saying it probably 3 times anyway, but this will get us a start so that we can get into the fun stuff, creating sketches and making models.